Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast, Part 2 of the 2023 NFL season predictions. This segment is going to be the superlative segment where I talk about my predictions for my superlatives. First up, best rookies. After that will be most improved. That'll be most disappointing, make or break players, bounce back / comeback players, bold predictions for every team, and then one of my fun gimmicks, the Ewing theory. All right, best rookies. All right, I go in alphabetical order by team. Arizona, Paris Campbell. Atlanta, Bijan Robinson. Baltimore, Zay Flowers. Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid. Carolina, Bryce Young. Chicago, Darnell Wright. Cincinnati, Myles Murphy. Cleveland, Cedric Tillman. Dallas, Luke Shoemaker. Denver, Marvin Mims. Detroit, Sam Laporta. Green Bay, Luke Musgrave. Houston, C.J. Stroud. Indianapolis, Will Richardson. Jacksonville, Antoine Harrison. Kansas City, Rashid Rice. Las Vegas, Michael Mayer. Los Angeles Chargers, Quentin Johnson. Los Angeles Rams, Byron Young. Miami, Cam Smith. Minnesota, Jordan Addison. New England, Christian Gonzalez. New Orleans, Kendre Miller. New York Giants, John Michael Schmitz. New York Jets, Joe Tippmann. Philadelphia, Jalen Carter. Pittsburgh, Joey Porter Jr. San Francisco, Ronnie Bell. Seattle, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Tampa Bay, Payne Durham. Tennessee, Peter Skoronski. Washington, Emmanuel Forbes. Most improved players. My players that I predict will be the most improved on each team. Arizona, Rondale Moore. Atlanta, Drake London. Baltimore, Rashad Bateman. Buffalo, James Cook. Carolina, J.C. Horn. Chicago, Justin Fields. Cincinnati, Dax Hill. Cleveland, Greg Newsome II. Dallas, Tyler Smith. Denver, Caden Stearns. Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson. Green Bay, Christian Watson. Houston, Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is on the Colts. I'm thinking of the wrong Pierce. Damian Pierce. My apologies. I wrote down the wrong Pierce. Indianapolis, Kwity Paye. Jacksonville, Trayvon Walker. KC, Sky Moore. Las Vegas, Trayvon Moehrig. Los Angeles Chargers, Zion Johnson. Los Angeles Rams, Kobe Durant. Miami, Brandon Jones. Minnesota, Alexander Mattison. New England, Mac Jones. New Orleans, Trevor Penning. New York Giants, Evan Neal. New York Jets, Michael Carter II. Philadelphia, Nakobe Dean. Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett. San Francisco, Brock Purdy. Seattle, Charles Cross. Tampa Bay, Joe Tyron Shoyinka. Tennessee, Treylon Burks. Washington, Jahan Dotson. Most disappointing these are my picks for the most disappointing players on each team. Arizona, James Conner. Atlanta, Jake Matthews. Baltimore, Odell Beckham Jr. Buffalo, Von Miller. Carolina, Adam Thielen. Chicago, Tremaine Edmonds. Cincinnati, Orlando Brown. Cleveland, Deshaun Watson. Dallas, Brandon Cooks. Denver, Russell Wilson. Detroit, Josh Reynolds. Green Bay, Kenny Clark. Houston, Dalton Schultz. Indianapolis, Ryan Kelly. Jacksonville, Calvin Ridley. Kansas City, Kadarius Toney. Las Vegas, Jimmy Garoppolo. Los Angeles Chargers, Sebastian Joseph Day. Los Angeles Rams, Cooper Kupp. Miami, Teron Armstead. Minnesota, Harrison Smith. New England, Juju Smith-Schuster. New Orleans, Andres Pete. New York Giants, Bobby Okerke. New York Jets, Breece Hall. Philadelphia, DeAndre Swift. Pittsburgh, Allen Robinson. San Francisco, Javon Hargrave. Seattle, Draymond Jones. Tampa Bay, Chris Godwin. Tennessee, DeAndre Hopkins. Washington, Kendall Fuller. All right, make or break players. A player on each team that I think are facing make or break seasons. Arizona, Kyler Murray. Atlanta, Bud Dupree. Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins. Buffalo, Ed Oliver. Carolina, Brady Christensen. Chicago, Jalen Johnson. Cincinnati, Jonah Williams. Cleveland, Elijah Moore. Dallas, Leighton Vander Esch. Denver, Jerry Jeudy. Detroit, David Montgomery. Green Bay, Jordan Love. Houston, Titus Howard. Indianapolis, Michael Pittman Jr. Jacksonville, Ben Bartch. Kansas City, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Las Vegas, Jerry Tillery. Los Angeles Chargers, Kenneth Murray Jr. Los Angeles Rams, Cam Akers. Miami, Austin Jackson. Minnesota, Byron Murphy Jr. New England, Ezekiel Elliott. New Orleans, Michael Thomas. New York Giants, Darius Slayton. New York Jets, Mekhi Becton. Philadelphia, Rashad Penny. Pittsburgh, Deontay Johnson. San Francisco, Isaiah Oliver. Seattle, Jordan Brooks. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield. Tennessee, Christian Fulton. Washington, Chase Young. All right. Next up, bounce back, comeback players. Each team's players that I think will bounce back from injury or disappointing seasons. Arizona, DJ Humphries. Atlanta, AJ Terrell. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. Buffalo, DeMar Hamlin. Carolina, Hayden Hurst. Chicago, Darnell Mooney. Cincinnati, Chidobe Awuzie. Cleveland, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Dallas, Tyron Smith. Denver, Randy Gregory. Detroit, Graham Glasgow. Green Bay, David Bakhtiari. Houston, Shaq Mason. Indianapolis, Shaquille Leonard. Jacksonville, Brandon Scherf. Kansas City, Donovan Smith. Las Vegas, Chandler Jones. Los Angeles Chargers, Khalil Mack. Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford. Miami, Xavier Howard. Minnesota, Jordan Hicks. New England, Hunter Henry. New Orleans, Cameron Jordan. New York Giants, Darren Waller. New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. Philadelphia, Fletcher Cox. Pittsburgh, TJ Watt. San Francisco, Eric Armstead. Seattle, Jamal Adams. Tampa Bay, Shaquille Barrett. Tennessee, Harold Landry III. And Washington, Logan Thomas. All right, here's a fun one. Bold predictions for every team this season. All right. The Arizona Cardinals. My bold prediction is that Jonathan Gannon will be one and done. He feels like the Texans coach from last year where everybody just mocking him. And potentially if they end up with the worst record and end up with Caleb Williams, maybe Gannon's one and done. And we've had more one and done coaches in the NFL recently than you'd think. Obviously, Nathaniel Hackett wasn't even one and done. The Texans coach from last year obviously was Lovie Smith. And then the Texans coach before that too. So we'll see. The Atlanta Falcons. Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London combined for 20-plus touchdowns. And I think that a majority of them will be Bijan. So this isn't necessarily predicting a breakout for Desmond Ridder. Baltimore, I predict that Lamar Jackson leads the team in rushing touchdowns. I've mentioned this a lot. I'm not a J.K. Dobbins fan. And I think the Ravens might do a running back by committee thing, kind of like how Buffalo did and like how Philadelphia will do it. Or there's a couple teams that do it like that. Kansas City kind of. But I feel like Pacheco kind of just ran away with the starting job. And I think that Lamar likes to run him in. The Buffalo Bills. James Cook will have over 1,000 rushing yards. I think James Cook will have a big season. And I think that he will be the RB1 for them going forward. The Carolina Panthers will trade Brian Burns to the New York Football Jets for Will McDonald, a 2024 second, a 2025 fourth. I think that they are going all in for Rodgers, and the Panthers might just stink, and they decide to blow it up and trade Brian Burns and trade Adam Thielen and Taylor Moton. Taylor Moton would be a good Jet too, but I think the Jets want big names, big things all the time. The Chicago Bears. Justin Fields leads quarterbacks in rushing yards. I feel pretty good about this one. Lamar's obviously in play for this. Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts. So there's a couple that stand out to me that could be the leading quarterback in rushing yards, but I think it'll be Justin Fields. The Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase will both have over 1,200 receiving yards. It's a bold prediction. I'm banking on one of them not getting hurt with this one. So there you have it. The Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson will have under 30 touchdown passes. Maybe he gets hurt. Maybe he starts off slow. because he hasn't played in a full season in a long time. The Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy will be fired after yet another dismal playoff loss. I don't know if it'll be a bad coaching decision or they get blown out by Philadelphia. But I think that they'll finally fire Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones will go with a hot toy. And I know the guy he really, really wanted, obviously, Sean Payton went to Denver. But there's other guys that he can go after. He always wanted Lincoln Riley. But I don't think he's leaving USC anytime soon, although he loses Caleb Williams. So you never know. Maybe he'll be the Cardinal coach for what we know. But I think Mike McCarthy gets fired. Oh, I know who Dallas is going to hire. I predicted it in the Big Ten podcast, Jim Harbaugh. That's who's going to be the next Dallas Cowboys head coach, Jim Harbaugh. The Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson is closer to last year than peak Seattle. I kind of hinted at this when doing the flop players. I listed Russell Wilson for Denver. I just don't think he's that good anymore. I'm sorry. But I still have Denver with the winning record kind of in spite of him and more because of Sean Payton and the running game and their secondary. And I forgot to mention Pat Surtain in their secondary, who's amazing. The Detroit Lions. Their defense will allow over 30 points per game. I think their defense is among the worst in the league. They have really one good defensive player that I trust, and he's not really that proven in Aiden Hutchinson. He was the number 2 pick in the draft a couple years ago. Or was it the number 3 pick? I don't remember. Next, the Green Bay Packers. I could see a world where Jordan Love's just not in rhythm right away. I have him going 8-9. But I think there's going to be a ton of David Bakhtiari trade rumors, specifically to the New York Football Jets, where his best friend Aaron Rodgers is. And obviously the Jets need an upgrade at the tackle position. So you're going to be hearing a lot of Bakhtiari to the Jets, but it won't happen. Maybe it'll happen, or maybe that story will break on like one of those Sunday mornings before the games, or there's always that random report on a Sunday morning that could just distract the team. I feel like that's going to come up in like Jay Glazer's Sunday News and Notes kind of thing 1 week. Houston, C.J. Stroud leads rookies in touchdown passes. This is an interesting pick. I'm not a fan of his receiver room. I like John Mechie a lot. But I don't love the Colts receivers either. Don't love the Panthers receiver room. So why not go with Stroud? Bang on a Mechie leap. Maybe Damian Pierce out of the backfield a little bit. Maybe Dalton Schultz emerges. So I could see that. Indianapolis will trade Jonathan Taylor to the Miami Dolphins for a 2024 second-round pick. This factors into the Dolphins to win the division. I think they either trade for him or Josh Jacobs, but I'm going to say they trade for Taylor instead because I think that Josh Jacobs is worth the first-round pick, potentially. I mean, you could argue Taylor is too, but to me, I think the Dolphins can get him for a second. And I don't think the Dolphins want to give up a first for Josh Jacobs. So I think that Taylor lands in Miami, and that's that. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Travis Etienne over 1,200 all-purpose yards. I think that he may have 800 rushing yards and maybe 500 receiving yards or 450. But I think he's going to be a good all-purpose player for them this year. The Kansas City Chiefs will acquire Mike Evans from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a 2024 second and a 2025 fourth. Maybe they get more back for Evans, Tampa, but obviously KC needs a number one receiver, and Evans and Mahomes together would be amazing. And I think it would rejuvenate Mike Evans. The Las Vegas Raiders will trade Chandler Jones to the Seattle Seahawks for 2024 second and 2025 third. They can use a pass rusher to replace Shelby Harris, who went to the Browns. So Chandler Jones would be a really good pickup for Seattle. The Los Angeles Chargers will fire Brandon Staley at the end of the year after they lose in the postseason to Pittsburgh. And maybe that's who Jim Harbaugh coaches. Maybe he coaches the Chargers or something. But we'll see. He'll either coach the Chargers or the Cowboys. Harbaugh. But I thought I said Dallas on the podcast for the Big Ten. I need to re-listen to that and see what I said. But I said Dallas on this show, but if I said the Chargers on the other show, then it's the Chargers. It's whatever I said in the Big Ten show. But all I know is that Brandon Staley won't be coaching the Chargers in 2024. The Los Angeles Rams. Sean McVay will leave the Rams after the season unless they end up with the number one pick in the draft and draft Caleb Williams. If they don't get Caleb Williams, he's going to another team. Maybe he'll be the Charger coach. Who knows? Or the Cowboy coach. He'll be coaching the Cowboys or the Chargers next year if Caleb Williams isn't a Ram. Or he'll be on Fox or something. Or CBS if they demote Romo. Or he goes to Amazon and Kirk Herbstreit just does college football rather than college and the NFL. But to be fair, Kirk Herbstreit's an excellent analyst. I know his NFL knowledge isn't as strong as his college knowledge, but he's still a darn good football analyst, even when he does the NFL. The Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa plays in all 17 games. That's part of the reason why I picked them to win the division. And I'm rooting for Tua. I always like watching him play. The Minnesota Vikings. Danielle Hunter, 15+ sacks. I see a big year coming from Danielle Hunter. I almost want to predict something with Justin Jefferson, but those are just too easy. So I decided to go outside the box and predict the big year for Danielle Hunter. Who's another comeback player of the year sneaky candidate? New England will acquire Hunter Renfrow from the Las Vegas Raiders for a 2024 third-round pick. Hunter Renfrow is just a classic Bill Belichick player. I always thought that Hunter Renfrow was going to end up on New England somehow, someday. The New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr, career high in passing yards. I just think that with John Gruden helping him out in the offseason and with a lot more friendly weapons with Chris Olave and maybe Michael Thomas and Kamara and Williams, I think the Saints' offense has a chance to be really good. New York Football Giants. Daniel Jones, career high in passing yards. Darren Waller on the team now. Jalen Hyatt, good rookie receiver. Isaiah Hodgins builds on career year. Saquon out of the backfield. Not inconceivable. The New York Football Jets. Neither Breece Hall or Dalvin Cook get to 800 rushing yards. This is because Breece Hall's coming off the injury. And I think that they want to split time between the two guys and do a somewhat above average version of by committee. And obviously those backs are better than Philly's backs, but that's why I say a better version of Philly's running back system in a way. And then plus the Jets are going to pass a lot too with Rodgers. Speaking of Philadelphia, they're next. Jalen Hurts will have 50 touchdown passes and 10 rushing touchdowns. I think he's in for a monster season. And I have him winning the MVP this year, so there you go. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Jaylen Warren eclipses Najee Harris for RB1. This is a popular prediction. I'm not a big... I liked Najee Harris in college, but I just think that Jaylen Warren's a better fit for this offense than Najee Harris, and that's why I see the flip here. The San Francisco 49ers will acquire Braden Smith from the Indianapolis Colts for 2024 second rounder. So they get a tackle to go with Trent Williams for the right side to replace Mike McGlinchey. I think the Colts might blow it up at the trade deadline, trading Taylor, and then I have them trading Braden Smith. So that would be a really big addition for San Francisco. Seattle. Jackson Smith and Jigba leads rookies in receiving yards. I like this one, although Dalton Kincaid's a sleeper for that. Don't sleep on that one. And then obviously Quentin Johnson. The reason why I didn't pick him is because obviously they have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. But that's the case against JSN too, because they also have Tyler Lockett. I almost said Tyler Higbee, but he's on the Rams. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and Noah Fant. And I don't think it's going to be Jalen Hyatt. I don't think it's going to be Jordan Addison. I don't think it's going to be anybody from Green Bay or KC, but you never know. I decided to go with Smith and Jigba. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will trade Levante David to the New York Football Giants for 2024 second and 2025 third. I think the Giants want to improve what I think is the weakest link of their team, and that is linebacker. I think David would be an excellent fit on the interior of their linebackers, and I'm not a big Micah McFadden fan, so he would obviously be a big upgrade over that to go with Bobby Okereke in the middle, and with Azeez Ojulari and obviously Kayvon Thibodeau on the outside. So that would be a big addition for the Giants if they were able to get him. The Tennessee Titans, Treylon Burks over 1,000 receiving yards. I think he makes a big year two leap. And in the Washington Commanders, Ron Rivera will be the first head coach fired. And I think that's a popular prediction as well. All right, the last part of this segment, the Ewing theory. I do not have a lot of people for this, but I just thought of another player. Some of these guys are injured. Some of these guys left in free agency or got traded in the offseason. So without further ado, here we go. Arizona, Kyler Murray hurt right now. I don't have anybody for Atlanta or Baltimore. Buffalo, Tremaine Edmonds on defense. Carolina, DJ Moore. Dallas, I have Ezekiel Elliott. Denver, Bradley Chubb, because they traded him. I mean, you could argue Chicago Roquan Smith, but they got Tremaine Edmonds to essentially replace him. And then there's the obvious one, Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers. That's the most obvious one sitting on the board. If the Packers are this year's Seahawks with Jordan Love leading the way, that's it. Just like the obvious Ewing theory last year. was Seattle Russell Wilson. That ended up working out. Indianapolis Jonathan Taylor, that's an asterisk because he's still on the team. Just like Kyler's kind of an asterisk because he's hurt. Alvin Kamara, or Jonathan Taylor suspended, or not suspended. Alvin Kamara suspended. Jonathan Taylor's out right now. Kansas City, maybe Chris Jones if he sits. That's why I didn't put him. Juju Smith-Schuster really doesn't count. I mean, they had a good Ewing theory that worked out last year with Tyreek Hill. They won the Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill, so that was like a Ewing theory thing for them. The Raiders, Derek Carr, that one's obvious. I don't have one for either LA team. Oh, wait, the Rams, Jalen Ramsey. That's an interesting one that I just thought about. Don't have one for the Dolphins. Minnesota has two. Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen. I feel like the more interesting one is Cook. Because I wanted to see how Madison handles being the RB1. It's similar to the Cowboys with Zeke. New Orleans, Alvin Kamara because of the suspension. I don't have one for either of the New York teams. Philadelphia, Javon Hargrave on defense. They lose him in free agency to the Niners. I do not have one for Pittsburgh. San Francisco, Mike McGlinchey. We'll see about that one. Last year, obviously, they had one that worked with Garoppolo. Without Garoppolo, they were better. Seattle, Shelby Harris on defense. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady. Nobody on Tennessee. And nobody for Washington. Although I do have Dan Snyder written down because they remove him. And what if they're good? Then that's a Ewing theory for an owner. You don't see that very often. Let's face it, it really hasn't worked with the Mets with the Wilpons yet, and it hasn't worked with the Clippers with Sterling yet, unfortunately. So maybe it'll work here with Snyder, and it hasn't really worked with the Suns without Sarver, or the Mercury without Sarver yet either. So we really haven't seen a Ewing theory without an owner, and it hasn't worked without, or I mean, it's weird saying this, but this is more about owners that have obviously sold teams rather than owners that have deceased, because obviously the Lakers won after Dr. Bus deceased. It took a while, but they won. The Yankees won in 2009, but that was before George passed away. But George wasn't running things anymore. It was Hal that was running things in 2009 when they won the World Series. So those are two examples of owners. And even the Giants, they did win after Wellington Mara passed away too. So owners that pass away, I don't qualify. It's usually the owners that sell a team. And they could be better or worse because of it. And so it hasn't really worked for the Mets or the Clippers or the Suns yet. But obviously, we'll see with Washington whether that works or not. All right, so there you have it for part 2 of the NFL season prediction show. Next up will be part 3, which is all things betting.